Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good to see everybody this morning. Good lively crowd and everything. So far, it's not raining today. Rain and storms, everybody's not too much affected by them. Trees blow over limbs and stuff like that. Sure is getting a lot of water. Thank you for coming out this morning. Good to see everybody. Everybody's doing well. Let's open our books to number 386 for our first song this morning. I'll be satisfied. 386. When my soul is singing in the promised land above, I'll be satisfied, praising Christ the Savior for redeeming grace and love. I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. When my soul is resting in the presence of the Lord, I'll be satisfied. Living in a city where the soul shall never die, I'll be satisfied. There to meet with saved ones, never more to say goodbye, I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. When my soul is resting in the presence of the Lord, I'll be satisfied. When I meet the ransomed over on the golden shore, I'll be satisfied. There I'll join the angels singing praises evermore. I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied. When my soul is resting in the presence of the Lord, I'll be satisfied. Number 422. 422, the Sunset Gate. 422. When the calls of earth are o'er, I shall dwell forevermore in a land free from fear and hate. I shall see my Savior's face, and in heaven take my place. When I come to the sunset gate, when I come to the sunset gate, where the saved ones in glory wait, I shall lay my burdens down and receive a golden crown. When I come to the sunset gate, though my heart is sometimes sad, I've a hope that makes me glad, for the
sunset gate. When I come to the sunset gate, where the saved ones in glory wait, I shall lay my burdens down and receive a golden crown. When I come to the sunset gate, there will be no more goodbyes, no more sad and weeping nights, in that land where the saved ones wait. I shall dwell forevermore on that happy golden shore. When I come to the sunset gate, when I come to the sunset gate, where the saved ones in glory wait, I shall lay my burdens down and receive a golden crown. When I come to the sunset gate.
Number 473. 473, farther along. We'll sing the first and the fourth verses. That's really cool. 473. Tempted and tried, we're all made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. When we see Jesus coming in glory, when he comes from his home in the sky, then we shall meet him in that bright mansion. We'll understand it all by and by. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by.
Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we come about before your throne this morning. Thank you, Father, for blessing us today, Father. Thank you, Father, for blessing this opportunity to come together with the church, to worship you in spirit and in truth, and sing songs and praise to your name. We pray, Father, for those that are sick and suffering, especially those in the household of faith, knowing that they will be here if possible. Pray for your richest blessings upon them, and just pray that their faith will be strong and continue to be strong. Pray for Brother Paul as he brings lead us in our Bible study this morning. We just pray together we can write this Bible, apply it to our lives, and grow closer to you and learn more of your will. Pray, Father, for the lost and dying world. Pray that hear your word, that they will lead your country towards everlasting life. We pray for our families, Father, that are lost. Pray that you will touch their hearts, and that maybe we can say something or live our lives in front of them, they will come to you. We ask that you go with us, Father, as we go through this Bible study. We just pray that everything that's said and done is according to your will, and you will please forgive us, Father, for anything that may get against us. Go with us through the service. And we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to welcome everybody this morning. Good looking crowd. Of course, for years I've said the crowd often looks better with me not in it. So, but thank you for being here. Boy, it's good. What a beautiful day. Maybe we're not going to have any rain today. That'd be good. People need to catch up on grass mowing and a few other stuff. We're supposed to have a few beautiful days. For Bible study, we are in Matthew chapter 24, starting with verse 1. But it's similar to what is in Mark chapter 13 and Luke chapter 21, starting with verse 5. And it deals with Jesus foretelling the destruction of Jerusalem. So if you would, I prefer Matthew, even though we will be probably kicking over and mentioning some of what's in the other Gospels as we go through. Matthew chapter 24, starting with verse 1. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. Now we are in Jerusalem. When are we? We are still on Tuesday. We've had several lessons that we've been on Tuesday. We are still on Tuesday, coming up before Friday and before, I guess, the crucifixion and the death, burial, and resurrection. So anyway, we'll back up just a little bit. I want to stress a few verses from Matthew 23. And we'll just read a few. Verse 34. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall you scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you, the Jews, the children of Israel, God's chosen people, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zachariah, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation, not some generation way into the future, 2,000 years later, but all these things shall come upon that generation of Jews. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not? Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. I'm going to read one more and then we'll go to chapter 24. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth till you shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And Jesus, after calling the scribes and the Pharisees hypocrites 7 or 8 times and rebuking them, Jesus left out of the temple, went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him. And if we go to Mark, it says, one of his disciples said unto him, Teacher, or Master, behold, what manner of stones and what manner of buildings. You know, the Jewish historian Josephus recorded that some of the stones in the building, some of the bottom stones in the building, were almost 70 feet long, were 12 feet high, and 18 feet across. Pretty good size stones. Probably a little more than I could carry even when I was younger. But also, just talking about, there were all kinds of gold, gifts, ornaments in the temple. And also, the temple took 46 years to build, to complete, with 10,000 workers. So it would have been an enormous undertaking, but with some of the stones 18 feet wide, it would have been an immense building. And it would have been one that people would have said would probably never fall. So I just want to set that stage. So they came, his disciples, and Jesus said unto them, see ye not all of these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. You know, with the size of the temple, and it was made out of white limestone, a very strong material. It's kind of hard. Here Jesus says to them, you know, it'll be destroyed. You see all this, the things in this temple? There shall not be one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. 46 years to build, 10,000 workers. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? You know, if we go, I think Mark records that the disciples that came unto him privately were Peter and James and John and Andrew. What strikes you about that? Well, 3 of them were there for the transfiguration and seemed to be in on most of the major events, and Andrew is listed with the other 3 as being there on this occasion. It's kind of interesting. One commentator commented that Andrew was probably the least known or the least involved or whatever of those four, and was therefore listed last. So I don't know, I'll just throw that out. And they asked him, tell us, when shall these things be? When is this going to happen? You've told us that there'll not be one stone left upon another at the temple, which means it will be totally destroyed. Tell us, when is this going to happen? What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? You know, Mark records, tell us when, therefore shall these things be. What shall be the sign when these things are about to come to pass or to be accomplished, Mark? And what shall be the sign of their coming and of thy coming and of the end of the world? You know, they're asking 4 questions. The first question, when shall the temple be destroyed? Because that's what Jesus told them was going to happen. So they asked, when shall the temple be destroyed? What shall be the signs preceding the destruction of the temple? What will be the signs that we will see knowing that the temple will be destroyed? And they also ask, what shall be the sign of thy coming? Or what shall be the sign of Christ's coming? And the fourth one, what shall be the sign of the end of the world? Now, I want to kind of put in perspective here just a second. The first 2 questions, and that is, when will the temple be destroyed, and what will be the signs right before the temple is to be destroyed? Jesus will answer those in Matthew 24. The other 2 questions, what's the sign of Christ's coming, or what's the sign of thy coming? And what shall be the sign of the end of the world? Those will be answered in some of the following chapters. But we get so many people, when they get to chapter 24, want to put chapter 24 to the end of the world. There shall be wars and rumors of wars and the abomination of desolation and all of this stuff. And they want to talk about rapture of the church. They want to talk about 1,000-year kingdom. Those aren't mentioned. Chapter 24 is to answer the first 2 questions. When will be the destruction of the temple? And what is the signs of Christ's coming, of your coming? I think in Matthew it's listed as, what's the sign of thy coming? And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Pay attention. Listen. Take heed. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. You know, during this time, I mean, we're talking from the time Jesus tells his disciples this up until the time of the destruction of the temple. We're talking 40 years approximately. Now, there will be many that will come and say that they are Christ to get an army of following to rise up against the Romans hoping to free the children of Israel from Roman rule. And the historians, including Josephus, list several that do that. The Maccabee Revolt, a bunch of other people. And all of those are put down by the Romans. So this will also, there's many that come and say that they are Christ to try to get enough people to go and fight against the Roman government. And this will be a little bit of what leads to the Romans deciding to come and, I guess, siege Jerusalem. But Jesus said, many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Now, Jesus is answering the first question now. When is the temple going to be destroyed? But before it be destroyed, there'll be all these people rise up. Now, Jesus has performed many miracles. The people are looking for a king, a Messiah, a Christ to come in and set up a political kingdom, an earthly kingdom. Jesus' kingdom is spiritual. But once Jesus is crucified, once he's ascended, there will be many that come to say they're Christ because of the interest in the people where they've heard of and seen Jesus. They want this Messiah. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Now, so many people want to take that verse and say, the end of the world. No, the end of worship in the temple in Jerusalem. The end and the destruction of the temple. Now, all of these false Christs lead the people in revolt, a lot of them, against the Romans. So they will hear of these wars and rumors of wars. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Some of the commentaries talk about the earthquakes and pestilences and all of these things that were listed. Of course, all of those would affect the Jewish people in Jerusalem, but some of them, historical evidence written by some of the historians of the period. A great earthquake in Crete, one at Rome, one at Apamea in Phrygia, one at Laodicea, one in Campania. There were numerous famines. All of these are recorded by various historians. Jesus goes on and says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, Jesus is saying, even though all of these disasters, famines, pestilence, earthquakes, but Jesus says these are the beginning. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. What is that Jesus is talking about? Jesus is talking about the persecution of the church. Now, after the death, burial, resurrection, after Pentecost, after the first gospel sermon is preached and the church is founded, there will be a period of great persecution. Jesus tells them that there will be. They will deliver you up to be afflicted. They shall kill you. You shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Some historians have said that the Jewish people were blaming a lot of the riots against the Roman government on the Christians. Of course, those in the religious authority in Jerusalem over the Jews hated the Christians also. So Jesus says, they'll deliver you up. There's going to be a period of great persecution. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. You know, that will be family members against family members. I'll just say it that way. You know, because some families will say the fact that you're a Christian leads us, the whole family, to be persecuted, and you're the cause of it. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. What does it mean, the love of many shall wax cold?
We a lot of wicked.
There's not going to be brotherly love, neighborly love for most people. It will be a period of hate, period of resentment, a period that a lot of people will turn to iniquity. And Jesus says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Now, the first thing that you think of when that verse is read is for a Christian, enduring until the end will have a crown of life. And yes, absolutely. Jesus tells them, he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Jesus is saying, all this persecution is coming. It's coming on the church. It's coming on Christians. But he that remains faithful unto the end shall receive a crown of life. Or as Jesus said, he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. The main sign, one of the main signs, Jesus has given several signs that will occur before the temple will be destroyed. Jesus is answering the first question. Jesus answers the questions in the order they were asked. But notice this. The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Has the gospel been preached to all nations? Do what?
I don't think you know about it, man.
Let's go to Colossians 1:23. Who wrote Colossians? The Apostle Paul. Who did he write it to? The church of Colossians. When was it written by the Apostle Paul? AD 63 or so. You get different commentators will put maybe 62, 63 on it. Colossians chapter 1 and verse 23 says, if you continue in the faith, grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven, whereof I, Paul, am made a minister. The Apostle Paul says the gospel has been preached when he wrote that, AD 63, to all nations. That's one of the signs that has to happen before the temple can be destroyed. And the Apostle Paul writes that has happened in AD 63. Some people would say, I've read some commentaries, some people would say 7 years before the temple's destroyed. Remember, Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70. Some people would say 6.5 years approximately, which is time and a half spoken of back by Daniel the prophet. But we're not going exactly there right now. We'll stay on this. And the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Now, some people in this present day and age like to say the gospel could not have been preached back then because you didn't have radio, you didn't have TV, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have the internet. How could the gospel be preached? And they like to say that's talking about present day, that the gospel is just now being preached over all the world. And the end is the end of time. No, Jesus is talking about the signs for the destruction of the temple. And the Apostle Paul says, hey, the gospel has been preached to every nation, to every creature under heaven. And the Apostle Paul says, I am a witness. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. What's the abomination of desolation?
When a Gentile sacrificed an unclean animal on the altar.
It is one of a couple of things. It could be when the Romans destroyed the temple, before they destroyed it, they sacrificed a swine, hog, on the altar. Under the Old Testament law, a swine or a hog or a pig is an unclean animal. But that is one that you will hear people who comment say. The other one is the temple, the inner portion of the temple is a holy place, such that no Gentile was allowed to enter into that holy place. Gentiles were considered by the Jews as being unclean. Heck, they didn't wash their hands. They ate all these unclean animals, their diet and so forth. The Jews would call them dogs, comparing them to a dog that ate just scraps of anything on the ground or whatever it could find. So it could be either one of those. I'm not certain which one. Either one would be an abomination. But it's an abomination of desolation. What is desolation?
Totally barren.
Totally barren. We think of desolation, maybe there was Maybe there was a small village there at one time. Desolation means nobody lives there and it is not fit for habitation. Now I want to go back. Let's go back a minute. Let's go back to verse 38 of Matthew 23. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. What house is that? Is that their physical house they live in? No. It is their spiritual house. What is their spiritual house? It's based on the Mosaical law. It's based on the temple, the Holy of Holies in the temple. The only place that God came to commune with the children of Israel was in the Holy of Holies, inside the temple. In the Holies of Holies, the Holy of Holies, the only person that could go in, chief priest, or the high priest, after he made a sacrifice for the sins of the people, he made a sacrifice for his own sins, he would go in to the Holy of Holies. God would come down as a mist or as a vapor and sit upon the mercy seat in the Holy of Holies. The mercy seat that sat upon the Ark of the Covenant. So you would have the Ark of the Covenant, and you would have the mercy seat on top of it, and God would come down as a vapor, as a mist, whatever, and that was the only way God communed with the children of Israel. Now, behold, your house is left unto you desolate. There's not going to be Holy of Holies in the temple. It's going to be totally destroyed. Where's the Ark of the Covenant? Does anybody know where it is? I don't know. If anybody knows, they're not telling. But as of right now, supposedly no one knows where the Ark of the Covenant is, and has not known for thousands of years now, for a couple thousand of years. But also, we look at this, Jesus is saying, behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And I say unto you, ye shall not see me again until you shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Now, that was the only way the children of Israel, communed with God. How do we commune as Christians? How do we commune with God? Pray. We take the Lord's Supper to show his death until he comes. All righty, let's move on. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Now, let's throw out one more thing for discussion, for thought. Is the temple in Jerusalem going to be rebuilt? You have groups that say that they're going to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem because it will bring in the second coming of Christ. Notice Jesus said the abomination of desolation. Their spiritual house will be left desolate. To me, that says that the temple in Jerusalem will not be rebuilt. Attempts to rebuild it may usher in the second coming of Christ. I don't know. But To me, the abomination of desolation says that the temple will not be rebuilt. Why? My next question is, why would God allow the temple in Jerusalem to be rebuilt when he says all men must come to him through Christ? Rebuilding the temple would allow the children of Israel to go back and worship under the Mosaical law. So why would God allow that if Christ came to fulfill the law and take it out of the way, and all men must now come to God through Christ? Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. When you see these things, flee Jerusalem. Don't take time to go back and gather up all your possessions and your money and everything. There's not going to be time. Flee. I think, was it, I don't know, Jim, you may have to help me on this a little bit. Was it Josephus or someone else had recorded that there were, when this had happened, the Christians in Jerusalem, which numbered somewhere, I think, around 100,000, left. They were all spared. Am I close?
That's close. And one other point I might make while you're there is the providence of God is recorded by these historians for some reason. Right at that time when that abomination was placed in the temple, that the Roman soldiers withdrew their attack for some reason. Unless it was an act of God, no other reason to be given. And at that time, when they relaxed their attack on the city of Jerusalem, was when the Christians left. And after they were all out and gone, then the Roman soldiers came back and continued to attack the city.
Yeah. Some of the commentaries that I have read said that in Jerusalem, there were I think close to 1.2 million people killed. Also, there was close to 100,000 taken captive by the Romans that were not killed. But there also was a little over 100,000, I guess, Christians that had escaped. But, this would have been a feast day. What about feast days, or what about feasts? All the Jewish males were required to come to Jerusalem to worship during those, I think 4 feasts were required, and the other lesser feasts were encouraged to attend. So they would have brought some family members and all that with them. But that's why there was such a large number of people in Jerusalem. When the siege started, it was over the feast period. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. If you're in the field, flee. Don't go back to your house. Don't go back for your money. Don't go back. Leave. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that nurse in those days. But pray ye that your flock be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Now the weather would be horrible. on the Sabbath day. What about the Sabbath day? Do what?
They couldn't travel.
They're children of Israel, the Jews, under the Old Testament law, cannot travel more than about 3/8 of a mile, I believe. Of course, you had to walk, so that would have been a decent distance. But that's a verse that I'm going to ask a question or two. Jesus is talking to his disciples, Christians. Why would he tell them to pray that your flight from Jerusalem would not be on a Sabbath day? I've often wondered about that because the Christians that he's addressing this to are not under the Mosaical law, not under the restriction of only being able to travel 1/4 to 3/8 of a mile on the Sabbath. So why would that be in there? Mark?
In Nehemiah, we're told that it was custom on the Sabbath day for the gates to be closed in Jerusalem. So it could be that maybe the gates should be closed so they would have a very hard time traveling on that day.
Okay. That sounds very logical to me. But I have not read anything in any of the commentaries to address it. I'm going to go ahead and ring the bell and get the kids out. And that probably takes us, we're just about out of time. We will start Wednesday on verse 21 of Matthew chapter 24, talking about great tribulation. And I know we've heard that, but I want to go over what Jesus said and what it means. Does anybody have a comment or a question on anything that we covered this morning?
You done a good job, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the comments. Jim, I especially appreciate the comment that you had. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for your attention.
Yo, I learned about that. Hey!
Good morning. How are you?
All right.
Yeah.